I have shortened my presentation, but I will shorten it live as well and speak about supporting gender equality through language in the European Union. So I'm not going to present my organization. I would only like to say that I'm representing a European Union agency, not the Commission or the Parliament or the Council or the big institutions. If you have any questions, you can turn to me on the internet. My second topic would have been to talk about gender equality at the EU level. And moving on to this topic, I would like to start by saying that gender equality is at the core of what we call European way of life. Equality between men and women is one of the fundamental values of the European Union, and it was first laid down in 1957 in the Treaty of Rome, and the Treaty of Rome is the first treaty that established the European Economic Community, which is the predecessor of the European Union as we know it today. And in this treaty, the signatories enshrined the principle of equal pay for equal work. Since then, of course, a considerable body of legislation was enacted to bring about equal opportunities and equal treatment and end harassment, discrimination on the grounds of sex and gender. The latest piece of legislation is the 2024, last year, directive that provides legal basis for preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence. In terms of language itself, we also see a shift in language and concept under EU law since our beginnings. At the beginning, it was about equality between sexes, and now it is more about integrating gender considerations more broadly, and gender issues have been consistently addressed at EU level. And furthermore, in 2006, a sister agency, an EU agency was created, and it is called the European Institute for Gender Equality, EIGE for short. And their task is to promote and advance gender equality. Last year, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made Union of Equality a cornerstone of her second mandate, and she also made a gender equal commission for the first time. Thus, the Commission has put equality at the heart of its agenda. And now you may also be asking yourself how Commission measures the effects of these laws and initiatives. There is one tool, one of the tools is the Gender Equality Index, which was first published 15 years ago in 2010. Last year, the index was 75 out of 100. Very briefly, 100 is total full equality. So the EU overall is 71. This is a 1-point improvement on the previous index in 2023, and an 8-point improvement on the first index 15 years ago. So we can see that there is improvement, but of course, we have heard it all day today, there is a long way to go till there is full equality on the ground, and not only at index level, but on the ground as well. My third topic today is how can language use support gender equality in the EU? I have devoted my career to languages, translation and interpreting, and I believe that words matter. Language is a vehicle that both creates and reflects our attitudes, behavior, and norms in society. EIGE promotes gender-inclusive language, and it defines gender-inclusive language as speaking and writing in a way that does not exclude or discriminate against a particular sex, gender, or gender identity, and does not perpetuate sexism, or gender stereotypes. The EU's institutions, Commission, Parliament, and Council, have published style guides which provide practical guidelines and examples of gender-neutral language and communication. No details will be provided here, but let me just say that the Commission's guidelines state that gender-neutral language is preferred whenever possible, and they give a specific several examples. For example, instead of using chairman, use chair, mankind, humankind, and so on. Or instead of using gender-specific pronouns like he and she, use they. But this only for the English language. I will come back to it later. The Council of the European Union encourages inclusive language and underlines the importance of being aware of negative stereotypes. And they advocate using, for example, expressions and they also advocate avoiding stigmatizing language, using stigmatizing language when referring to disability, for example, only for example. So expressions, person with disabilities or disabled persons are promoted instead of using the handicapped or the disabled. The same for autism. A person with autism or an autistic person instead of an autist, for example. These are just examples. I have already mentioned that equality between men and women is one of the fundamental values of the European Union, but another one is multilingualism. Because the European Union is a multilingual union with 27 member states, but 24 official languages. In this multilingual environment, the principles of gender neutrality and inclusivity in language requires different strategies for each language, depending on the language's unique grammar and conventions. So I think this illustrates the complexity of the task undertaken by the language services of the European institutions and the Translation Center. At the center, we follow institutional guidelines already mentioned, but also national guidelines and feedback from national authorities, depending on our client or the context or the text. We also have a very useful tool that you can all use. It's a public tool. It is the world's largest multilingual terminological database, IATE, E-I-A-T-E, Interactive Terminology for Europe. It contains collections of gender equality-related concepts. To wrap up, the European Union plays an important role in the journey towards gender equality in two ways. Firstly, by enacting legislation, and secondly, by advancing inclusive language at all levels. I'm almost finished. Currently, one of the emerging questions that needs to be addressed is gender bias in machine translation, and I would like to close with it. My presentation, and AI more generally, because the training data AI is developed with does not systematically include gender-neutral language. This means that its output may contain bias, gender bias. It is therefore essential to remember that we need humans here. We need to keep humans in the loop. Only humans can identify and correct bias or deliver unbiased, consistent, and accurate translations and language services, and especially in 24 official languages. Thank you very much for your attention.